Hello and welcome to This Week in Property. I'm your host Richard Swan, and in today's show, listeners, I'm looking forward to this one. I've got a personal resonance with this one. I'm really looking forward to today's guest. I'm going to split it into three boxes for you, dear listeners. We've got the man, the matter, and the mission. Okay, so the man. So I've got a gentleman for you we're going to have a chat with, Charlie Lamdin. A great wee story, interesting chap. You know, he can talk to you about washing cars when he was young and going through life and building up business and having success and working with people. Oh, that's good, Richard. That sounds interesting. Yep, definitely. Really interesting character. I've been following him a long time on YouTube. Amazing videos about flying his plane, which thankfully he has done through the beautiful countryside of Scotland. I'm going to commend him for that. He's got interesting trips to castles, journeys to France, trips in Teslas, and all sorts of funky little things that you'll really enjoy, you'll be entertained by, and you'll be informed by. Okay, so that's the man. Then we've got the matter. I'm going to talk about how he's built up the business, a thing called BestAgent. Find your agent, find your home. Oh, that's good, Richard. That sounds interesting. Excellent. But box number 3, the mission. Let's do all of that. Let's have fun, let's have business, let's have profits, let's help people, let's help our families, everything else. And with a big mission of ending homelessness. Got your attention there, I think. Yeah, so let's buckle in and enjoy. Here is the man himself, Charlie Lamdin. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Richard. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to this because what a package when you put all those things together. But let's keep them on tender hooks, you know, the big mission. Let's pull right back. And this man, Charlie, I mean, what's the deal here? I heard Richard mentioning, you know, washing cars when he was 18 and things like this. And he's went through a period of helping estate agents and bringing in tech and so on. How would you kind of summarise that background, that career of twists and turns?
Well, my first job actually I did when I would have been going to university. I actually did 3 years in the city in the financial markets, but got fired. I'm one of those people. I got fired for standing up for myself. I got fired for not backing down when I felt I was being treated unfairly.
Right.
And I've never looked back, because since that day, which was 27 years ago or something like that, I've only ever worked for myself. I'm one of those people that doesn't function well if I'm put in a box and told to be quiet and do what I'm told. Just unfortunately.
Yeah. So school wasn't a kind of easy experience for you then? Were you one of those characters, couldn't sit still, couldn't do what you were told at school, or did you get by?
I was fortunate. I have happy memories of school. Yes, I was always in trouble, but that's kind of what made it fun. And I have a pretty thick skin, and so I was okay. My big passion when I was a kid was cars, and so when I finally found myself fired from my job in the city, it was just when all my friends were finishing university, and we're about to have a summer of fun and partying, and the last thing I wanted to do was to be stuck in an office while they were partying all summer. So I thought, what can I do just to get myself through the summer? I thought, I'll just go and wash some cars. I'll knock on people's doors and wash cars. And that turned into a career for about 5 years, actually.
Wow.
With a hand car wash. I had a contract with a VW dealership doing all their showroom cars. And I employed at one point 16 people in my early 20s.
Fantastic.
But it was really hard work, 7 days a week. But the thing that was addictive to me was being the master of my own time. And that's and I got from that. I then met someone and ended up getting into the tech and property sector, and began a 20-year career in supplying marketing and technology products to estate agents. So that started off. I actually invented the one-stop photography and floor plan service for estate agents in the late 90s. When everyone said it couldn't be done, they said floor plans can only be done by surveyors, and photographers need to be professionals. And we, in London, where we started, we shortened the typical turnaround time for a new property to come to market from 2 weeks down to 2 days. And now, as everyone knows, now it's just accepted. And we did it in London and Sydney.
Yeah.
And I spent 20 years and then providing estate agency software. So I spent 20 years with estate agents as my clients of every different shape and size. And there is nothing I don't know about how estate agency operates And I've never been one. I have a lot of very close friends who've been estate agents. And I have a lot of friends and contacts in the world. And I'm a speaker in an estate agency and a writer occasionally, that kind of stuff. So, that's the sort of background on the property side of things. But then about 5 to 10 years ago, I had a bit of a turning point in my life. I met someone that changed my view on the world a bit, and started thinking about more than just business to make money, and started looking into things. And it's a very long story, but what I realized is that there are an awful lot of people who are needlessly disadvantaged. There are people who are disadvantaged, and it's through circumstances, and there's no easy solution to that. But there is a section of society as a whole, and I'm not just talking about homeless people here, who are needlessly disadvantaged, largely because of the current structure of corporate capitalism, where you are legally required to continue to provide growing returns for your investors. Yeah. And nowhere in corporate law does it say you cannot even indirectly do this at the expense of anybody. So, for example, Wonga.com was a classic case where they weren't breaking the law. Wonga.com, the online, the sort of payday loans. They were, and I actually had arguments. I knew people who invested in Wonga, and I questioned them and said, "Are you okay with that?" And they went, "It's just a software company." And I just said, I brought up the whole subject of how you make your money matters. It's fine to make money. It's great to make money. It's especially great to make money if you can do it because you've helped people. Yeah. And I had in the industry, I had a fairly famous falling out with Purple Bricks in the early days. Right. Very public one. And then I got threatened. Their lawyers threatened me with being sued. And I said, bring it on. I will happily stand up for what I've said, because I accused them of outright deception and breaking the Consumer Protection Act and misleading people into parting with money on terms they didn't understand. Right. Because I don't mind anyone trying different business models. That's the beauty of a free market, right? Yeah. Try everything. But when you know that you're taking money off tens of thousands of people and not selling their house, and you know that there's a fairly reliable percentage of people that's going to continue to happen to, and these are people who are only choosing you because they think they're saving money, because they need to save money. Yeah. And actually, you're costing them money they won't get back, and you're also costing them opportunity cost because their move is going to be delayed as well. So I have an inherent problem, and it goes back to my childhood, actually, where I have an inherent problem with bullies of any nature. Right. And so I can't help but speak up whenever I see what I think is needless and avoidable exploitation or taking advantage of anyone who may be vulnerable. And I don't buy the caveat emptor, buyer beware bullshit argument. I'm sorry. I just, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's okay. And the Wonga situation was great. That actually brought about a change in the law, and the government said, no, you can't do that. So if your company, your startup, results in the government having to make a new law to outlaw what you're doing, what it means is they didn't think they were ever going to need to make a law like that, because it was that obvious that it was bad and harmful to people. That's right. That's right. So I'm now combining my knowledge and understanding of the property sector, the dynamics of the property sector, and residential in particular. And actually, I started out investing 2 or 3 properties myself, bought and sold back in the 90s and early 2000s. And I'm combining it with a genuine desire to make a lasting difference, not least because when my kids grow up, I'd like to be proud of me. So, Yes, you can actually look them in the eye. You can actually be proud that this is what I do. This is how I help people. Is it? Right, okay. I can understand that. I can see you. That's my dad's path. I love that. Absolutely, I love that. I've got daughters of my own, and it's a big important part of that puzzle. Looking yourself in the mirror every morning, and they're always watching you. They're all, how does dad operate? How does dad speak? How does dad treat people? How was he with that waiter? How was he with his business partner? The full thing. And, we are models for them. So I love the fact that you're going that deep with it. Why don't we do that?
do you go, I've heard the explanations. I'm going back to, by the way, you were speaking about people who, oh no, I'm just investing in a software company. No, come on, scratch under the surface. Do you go along with the view of, listen, people are just too busy. We can't look at things. We've not got enough time to look into the detail. We're just trying to survive. We're trying to get to our work, get back, get the grass cut, get the kids sorted for school. We don't have time to look at what's behind this politician, what's behind this law change, what's behind this business. We can't do that. Is it that? Or do you go along with the people who are, no, everyone's out for themselves these days. It's a selfish attitude. You've just got to carve out your own piece. Everybody else is doing it. Where do you kind of find yourself? What's the kind of, where does the apathy come from?
Well, I had a really interesting upbringing in that I was exposed to multiple different ultra wealthy families and people.
Right.
And I very early on noticed a disconnect, that there was no correlation between how rich you were and how happy you were. and I became aware of the fact that there are a lot of people who have purely striven for money and more money and more money, and cannot understand why they aren't getting happier as they get richer.
Yes.
And so they just keep going for more and more because it's been indoctrinated in them from a very early point.
Yeah.
So I think, generally speaking, there is this misplaced belief that success in business only equals money.
Right.
But actually, there are now increasing numbers of studies and TED Talks that show that for fulfillment and, quotes, happiness, there is nothing that feels better than knowing that you've helped somebody.
Yeah. It's
but
a priceless part.
That does not serve the consumerism narrative where we just must buy more, buy bigger, spend more, etc., etc. And so, and a lot of people think that if you've got money, you don't have any problems, which isn't true, of course.
Yeah.
But I personally know so many millionaires who ended up seeking treatment for severe mental problems because it just didn't pan out how they expected.
Yeah. And you're right, there is so many studies. I think the one in the US was, because it's in dollars obviously, something about the $70,000 mark, I believe. It was up to that. Yep, you're oh, thank goodness I've got this. Oh, I feel a bit better, I'm controlling my family, this is great. But then that line, everything above that was just, oh, all right, okay. There was no difference. There was no real difference.
Well, I mean, this also comes on to, so I think there's a culture in business which is also, it's just business. It's not personal.
Yes.
It's just business.
Yes.
And I don't know if you ever saw the Liam Neeson film Taken.
Oh,
when
yes.
his daughter was kidnapped and sold into the sex trade. And when he finally gets the guy that did it, and he's got him in a lift, he goes, "It wasn't personal. It was just business." That's the problem. And a lot of people running businesses who are struggling because they borrowed money or whatever else, they just think, well, it's business. And because it's just business. I mean, the Wonga story, well, it was just business, right?
Exactly.
It was legal, it was business. Doesn't make it okay. So I think anyone in business for themselves needs to question, like, do I want to risk being one of those people that will regret later how I made my money?
Yeah.
Or do I want to try and find a balance where I can become prosperous, wealthy? I mean, make no mistake, I'll happily put on the cards right now. I aim to be extremely wealthy if I can.
Yeah.
Because I've got aspirations and hopes and dreams. I want to fly bigger planes. I want to take my kids around the world in a seaplane. I want to make films. I want to make movies. And I want to do it without having to get investors to do it. Yeah. So, I actually believe that of all of the systems that are there, capitalism is the best. Right. Because capitalism drives innovation faster than anything else, and technology lifts people out of poverty better than anything else. And so without capitalism, you don't get that innovation. So I am a capitalist. It might not sound like it when some people hear me talk.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes on to homelessness and my views on what we're probably going to talk about.
Yeah.
But no, I am. There's an amazing book called The New Capitalist Manifesto that came out about 5-6 years ago. Right. I should remember who read it, but it sums it up perfectly in there. It's like, it doesn't just need to be about currency units on the bottom line. There are other metrics of business success.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, capitalism is working too well in that vast quantities of wealth are being accumulated at the expense of people, right? And then you get people who've made all this money and they sit there and they're like, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
What do I do with it? So, I mean, whenever I have no investors or shareholders or partners, it's just me.
Right.
I have had many in the past. I've been through institutional venture capitalists, business angels, all kinds of different finance. And it's always ended badly because they've never liked they think they do. When they first hear me saying, I want to make a difference, I want to make a change, they're like, oh, we love that. But what they actually mean is, we love that as long as it doesn't diminish our returns at all.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Don't cross
so
this line. Yeah.
Right. And so I have a question that I ask all investors who are considering any investment. And I'm always open to people who come and talk to me. Oh, this is fascinating. Do you want a partner? Are you looking for investment? And a very wise man once told me, never refuse an offer before it's made. So I always have a conversation, right?
Sure.
And my first question to any venture capitalist is, if you're risking money on high-risk tech startups, it's obviously money that you can afford to lose, because you know what the odds are, right? The odds are 90% chance you're never going to see this money again, because those are the odds of startup investing, right? Therefore, by definition, this is money you can afford to lose. Therefore, it's money you don't need. It'll cost you nothing if you lose it, right? In other words, okay, yes, you lost your money, but it won't actually harm you or affect your life in any way.
Yeah.
So my question is, on that basis, if you already got more money than you need, what's your motivation for investing? And it always stumps them, because normally they want to say, well, I want to make a return on my money. And I say, well, so you can have even more money that you don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
And even more money they don't need. Because in my mind, that's the problem that the world faces, is people seeking returns when they don't need it. I'm all for making as much money as you want to make if you've got a plan for it. And if your plan is to spend it on a ridiculous piece of art, well, that's absolutely fine, right? But if you don't even know what to do with your money when you've got it.
Yeah.
And my other big problem with venture capital investors who seek a controlling share is, if you want to control a business, start your own. Don't take away the control from an entrepreneur who has sweated and toiled and everything else, because an entrepreneur's investment is his time and his life, and he can't get that back. You're losing money you can afford to lose, and you can get more.
Yeah.
We, as the entrepreneurs, sweat, blood, toil, tears, and we don't get it back. That's gone.
Yeah.
There's no getting that back. You can't go and get more or borrow more.
No.
And so there are, but they're extremely hard to find, investors. And I actually had one once, and unfortunately he died. Fascinating guy. He died. I mean, he was quite elderly, and he died of age-related problems. But fascinating guy. Started in the post room at Ogilvy and Mather when he was 16 years old, back in the 60s or something. Ended up as chairman of the world's largest advertising agency. He was chairman of the European of Ogilvy and Mather. His name was Peter Warren. He was an investor, and he was magical because he was not interested in how much money he was going to make out of this. He already had, and he knew he had more than he needed. This was his way of giving something back, of sharing his wisdom, sharing his advice and knowledge, and trying to help other people make. And you know, he was always there. He always gave time. You know, he'd always take the call. But most other investors are like, when am I getting my next management accounts? What, you know, and they inflict wholly unreasonable terms on you. So this is a very long answer to your question, but I think the problem of neglecting the neediest, and you touched on it, there is an awful lot of the fact that people are like, I'm just too busy. Of course I want homelessness to be ended, but what can I do about it? Yes. I'm already struggling, you know. And that question, which is the what can I do about it, is exactly what I'm seeking to answer with BestAgent. Well, here's what you can do about it, which costs you no money and no time, but by supporting BestAgent, you will be supporting any homelessness. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it definitely does. I love it. And by the way, do you just go on rants when they come, sir? I love it. I love your passion. You've got that. You can see it. You've got that mission, that purpose, and it comes across. It's fantastic. And it obviously taps into a childhood thing there and injustice, and say, no, I'm not going to stand for that. That's wrong. That's brilliant. You know, we've got to have that. And again, getting back to our kids, we need to make sure our kids have that fire in them as well. as well as you've drifted into where I wanted to take you next, because it's that learned helplessness, as we call it. Well, what the hell can I do? Yeah, I want to save the rainforest. Yeah, I don't want the whales to die. Yes, I want to end home. Yeah, but it's just me. It's just me, Joe Bloggs. Do you think that as the consumers, as the investors, as the ordinary people, if you want to call us that, is that we sometimes forget our power? We sometimes forget how much, if I put £1 towards that way, that company, that choice, I'm actually going to have an impact. If I don't give that they're not getting that £1, I'm putting it over here. That deliberate choice of where we shop, where we invest, how we do business, how we do life, that we forget how much power we've got.
I think you're spot on, except I don't think anyone forgets it. I don't think they actually realize it in the first place. A classic example of this is so Rightmove and Zoopla, who are effectively BestAgent's two largest competitors, although we're not seeking to remove anyone. We want to become a player in that field. Okay, so BestAgent is a property site where people can find their home and find their agent.
Yeah.
Zoopla owns a company called Uswitch, which you see in the TV adverts about switching your bill.
Yes.
Zoopla is 100% owned by an American private equity organization called Silver Lake, and they've got 50 companies the size of Zoopla. So they are a multi-billion pound organization. In its last annual accounts, Uswitch cleared £65 million net profit. Right, that's £65 million of UK consumer money indirectly, which is disappearing off to American hedge funds. Now, when a consumer uses Uswitch, they don't think about that.
No.
Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't use Uswitch. I mean, by all means, use Uswitch if it serves you. There's nothing against it. But be aware that where you choose to go and make your switch, or where you choose to go and look for your property, those websites will sell your cookie information, your data, and they will get paid. They will receive money just because you use their website, right? Rightmove, I mean, all websites. This is why they all have that accept cookies, right? When you click accept cookies, you are literally clicking allow us to monetize your visit to our website. The amounts are staggering. I estimate it to be £1 billion a year, every year in the UK, is paid out in referral commissions for introductions to new customers, whether it's from utilities or broadband, TV, insurance, mortgages, surveying, all of it, right? It's about £1 billion a year, which that referral commission just kind of disappears into profits. I mean, these companies like comparethemarket.com, hundreds of millions of profit. The consumer doesn't spend anything there. Look how much money you're giving them when you use their website. Now, yes, they provide a service and a convenience, and I've got no objection with that, right? But take Rightmove, for example. Rightmove, in the last 5 years, ignoring the pandemic, is between 180 and 200 million profit per year. Right. Rightmove is the most profitable company on the UK Stock Exchange by percentage net profit. For about 74%. 74% net profit margin. Okay, the most profitable company by far in terms of net profit percentage measurement. Of its roughly £200 million a year profit. And by the way, Rightmove is a fully legitimate business. I've got no problem with what Rightmove does. Right? It operates above board. It doesn't do anything illegal. It doesn't do anything immoral. I've got no problem with it. I don't think it innovates very much. I don't think it brings any real value. But no, they certainly don't do anything wrong. You look into Rightmove's accounts and see how much they do for. I mean, I was curious to see what they did for homeless charity, and I actually just assumed that they would be doing something for homeless with that much money swilling around, right? Their total charitable contributions for the last year's accounts I could find, out of that 200 million profit, not turnover, clear net profit, their total charitable contribution was £26,500 thereabouts. And that was only because of their pledge to match whatever their staff raise in their own charitable contributions.
Wow.
So in other words, unless their staff are going out raising money for charity, they pay nothing, and they'll just match it pound for pound. So I think the public will be, that's not okay. You know, it's fine for you to become the most profitable company in the UK Stock Exchange on the back of providing us with a property website. But shouldn't you, for example, like supermarkets, help food banks?
Yeah.
Shouldn't Rightmove, as the most profitable company in the sector, be doing something like that?
Mm-hmm.
So this is part of my campaign, and this is why I am a privately funded bootstrap company. BestAgent is we don't have millions of pounds of marketing budget, so I've only got PR. That's the only tool in my armory.
Yeah.
But with the rent guarantee scheme that I don't know how much you know about, that we are just starting to pilot now, we're hoping to get publicity and PR to raise awareness of BestAgent, and then start to get this message and this story out there, which is, as consumers, we have the opportunity to hold the companies we use to some sort of account by choosing where we vote with our feet and our wallets.
Yes.
So if I can offer the public a comparable service to Rightmove, we've got more property than Rightmove. We have 100% of property for sale to let on BestAgent. Then they have a choice. And they might say, well, hang on, I'm going to use BestAgent. First of all, it does the job as well as or better than Rightmove. And secondly, I don't know if you've seen this pledge, but BestAgent pledges that it will spend 100% of profits made from referral income, including any cookie data that we can sell, that kind of stuff. 100% of that money will go towards homeless and hungry projects and helping to end them. Now, if we end up as a player in that space, we have another income stream, which is our bread and butter, which we don't plan to use for charitable purposes. And that's the selling of buyer and seller leads to estate agents. So we send someone wants to view a property, we send it to the agent. They can reject it, but if they want to buy it, they pay a few pounds for that lead. That's our bread and butter revenue that's for us to build our technology, build our brand. But you see, the thing about referral commission, which is very much under the spotlight, okay, people having to declare their referral income. Yeah. It's a bit dirty money. If you take £800 off someone buying a house to do a survey, a mortgage survey on that property that they're buying, and 50% of that £800 goes as commission to the introducer because the survey actually only cost £400. Well, it's not illegal, but is it okay?
We're back to that. Yeah, exactly. Because if it just was down to legality, we would still be owning slaves. We would still be doing this, that, and the other. That whole black and white look. Oh, it's the law. Well, hold on a minute. Is it right? Is it right? Should we be doing this or that?
So, if BestAgent can generate significant referral commissions, because that's not going to stop, right? We're not going to stop that happening. It's just too powerful a machine. It's a juggernaut. You can't stop it. Yeah. But if we can give the public a different place to point their referral commission, where they know, and it will be audited, and they'll be able to see the results, that money is actually going back to the community in some way, shape, or form. And we can get that message across to the public. Choose where you look for your home online. Yes. Choose where you buy your mortgages, because they will have to declare that there's a referral commission. And so if you're spending £800 on a survey and £400 is going to commission, well, that's ultimately coming out of your pocket. Choose where you spend it, or choose where it goes. And I think that when you can say to the consumer, the busy, stressed, time-poor, cash-poor consumer who does not have time or money to give you to support your endeavours because of everyday struggles, but you let them know that, hang on, there's a choice about when you are going to buy stuff or look for stuff online. That choice means that actually you will be helping. Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea.
I love it. And you realise that you have that power, that buying power. I love it. I love it. It's not that you've forgotten, it's that a lot of people just don't actually realise it. They don't know it. And you're right, I think a lot of these things are coming under the spotlight, things that the movie, The Social Dilemma, it's actually showing people, this is what happens when you click on that little cookie button. And this is what happens when you do this. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I know. That's why we're trying to help you. Okay, lots of areas we can veer off into about the tech itself and how BestMove operates and so on. I'm sure we'll get into that, but let's get to the real thing. Of course, sorry. I do apologise. All these moves and rights and agents, we're thrashing out all sorts of labels here. The real important piece, these people, these humans that you're trying to help, You know, at the bottom of all the crux of the matter, you know, rough sleeping, homelessness, all these different labels and things. Why is that your thing? Because I said it earlier, you know, everybody wants the rainforest saved and the whales and this, that, and that. You could pick anything. You could pick any purpose, any mission. Why is this your thing?
That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. I think it's a combination of two things. It's two totally separate things. One is just pure chance that the industry I ended up in, which is estate agency, and what do? They put people into homes. Lettings and estate agents put people into homes. So that's the industry where my expertise lies, and I understand and I see how it works. And as a result of my time in that industry, I can now see the trickle down dynamics of that industry and what happens, and you know, and these vast referral commissions that go on behind the scenes, and how much a lead is worth. I mean, I've had private meetings with telecoms companies off the record where they actually share the truth about it. And I can't name the company, but there was a company once that just to demonstrate its contempt for low-income customers. Okay, this was a broadband provider. I asked, well, I'll shorten the story. He referred to their customers that can't afford to pay their bills as scrotes. This was the director of business development.
Director.
In a meeting with me, he said, well, then there are the scrotes who just can't pay. And I've never forgotten that moment. It just sort of hit me like a son. You know, if that is the attitude and the culture amongst the leadership of big corporations that are serving the consumer, then there's no wonder that they're big. You know, it's the same thing as people who are having to pay for their electricity or gas on a prepay card.
Yeah,
are paying sometimes 3 times the cost per unit.
That's right.
How is that?
The very people who should be helped are the very people being exploited more, being penalised. But
how is that okay? I just don't get it.
Yeah,
you know, because they are the lowest risk customers because you've got their money up front.
Yes, correct.
Arguably, they should be paying less.
Yeah. If you're using the normal business models, you know, supply, demand, all these normal business, you know, you said it yourself, Capital, you're not some, you know, I'll use a bad label, a tree-hugging hippie, you know, saying, no, all money is evil. You're not saying that. You're pointing out, let's do business. Let's do business. Let's do capitalism. Let's do currency. Let's move it around. It's a great thing. It's a great little thing. There's no, don't put overvalue into it. Don't think it's a be-all and end-all. Don't, you know, sacrifice your time, your health, your family for that. That's just silly. But at the same time, don't dismiss it. See the value in it and actually use it for good.
Yeah. So it's partly because of the industry.
That's that part. Yeah.
I've seen that. But the other part is that if you are fortunate enough to be in a position where you think you can help other people, I think there is an invisible risk where people think, I'm going to go and help other people because I can, however it is, by time or money or both or whatever.
Right.
And then I'll feel okay about my wealth. Then I'll feel okay about my privilege or my position.
Right.
What actually happens is you do go and help people. And you realize afterwards, all I've done is just tick a box to make myself feel better. I could have helped more people.
Right.
And so there's a scene in the film Schindler's List. I don't know if you've seen that film.
Oh, wow. Yeah, very powerful.
Where he's finally being thanked for all the people that he saved. And all he can think of is, and he breaks down, and says, I could have helped more.
Yeah.
I could have helped more. And that scene stuck me. So it's like, if I was to think about how can I use my knowledge, skills, experience, whatever, to help the maximum number of people possible. And also not just help people, because you can help people temporarily.
Yeah.
But actually help people in a more longer term way. You know, if this has any chance of happening over the next 5 to 10 years, how long it takes, and we end up becoming a part of the existing effort to end homelessness, that would be a phenomenal thing. And if we fail, I'll have been happy to have tried, you know.
Correct.
So it's and again, I can say to my kids, look, I tried, and I'm happy that I tried. I really gave it my all.
Yeah.
And we didn't have as many as we hoped to, but you know, I will go to my grave content that I did my best. However many people we do or don't help in the end. So two answers. Number one, this is how I think I'm personally best suited to help the maximum number of people for the longest period of time.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's the metric I think anyone who sets out to do good should be saying. That what is the largest number of people I could possibly help? Because anything less than that isn't okay. It's like if you helped 100 people, but you could have helped 1,000. Did you do it? Did you do enough?
Yeah, because that was the potential. Yeah, that's what you had in your grasp.
If there are 5 people in a burning building and you go and take one out, you're going to come out and go, well, I took one out, didn't I?
Yeah.
You're going to keep on going back in until you can't stop getting anyone else out.
Yeah.
So so I think it's because this is the field that I'm in. I want to make a living. I'd like to make money. I've got dreams of mine I want to fulfill. I want to do it in a way that I'll never have to feel guilty about it. I want to inspire my kids, and I want to feel that my life here wasn't just another person coming and consuming and dying, which is basically what the rest of us do most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Just existing. No, definitely. I love it, Charlie. I love it. Very powerful. Now, if I follow the process, because what I'm thinking in my head is people listening, people watching, like, oh yeah, this is brilliant. Oh, I love it. I'm right behind them. Yep, definitely. This makes sense. I can see that the why is obvious. God, of course you would want to help these people. That's brilliant. I can see how this is good. So you can actually, there's this best agent, and you can use that. You can use my power as a consumer and investor, right? Okay, and it's coming through, and the money is there, so there's a money chain as well. At the end of that, then, how do you see that actually implemented? Because it is a complex problem. There's lots of people involved. I mean, my goodness, the dismissive director who has the audacity to call people scrotes, I'm quite sure he'll dismiss every single one of them. Oh, they're all, just drug addicts, failures, losers. They don't try that. That's all they are. No, that is not the case. And you know this, the backgrounds and the complexity of that. Can you talk about some of the differences that are there, and can you talk about the ways that you think at the end of it you can actually implement and help that change?
Well, I've always taken an approach to problem solving, which is this. Most complex problems are usually a combination of many problems.
Yeah.
Okay? There's rarely a silver bullet where you solve one problem, it's all over, right? And so I tend to look at, okay, homelessness, I think people forget this. It's actually, there's a flow of people, right? Just to be really, really blunt about it, there's a flow of new people arriving in homelessness every day. Okay? Every day there are new people who, for differing reasons, for a long list of complex reasons, are arriving in a situation where either officially or unofficially they find themselves without a home of their own. Some of them it's only for a few days or a few weeks, few months. Some of them it becomes a long-term way of life, and then at the other end of it, they either get back on their feet and get back into a house, or they become a problem for the rest of their life until they die. I mean, so you've got the beginning and the end of the process, new homelessness, and the end of homelessness, which all too often is actually end up with people dying on the streets, and it's just horrendous. So what I don't propose to do, because I have zero qualifications, is to get involved in the complex social side of these problems, where it's to do with domestic violence. Roughly speaking, there's the sort of 3 main causes of homelessness, which is financial problems, domestic problems, so family breakdown or relationship breakdown, and then of course addiction problems, substance addiction, that kind of stuff, which can lead to problems. And sometimes they're combined, of course, it can be all 3. Yeah,
of course, that's right.
But what I learned, I did some volunteering for Crisis, the homeless organisation, Crisis quite a few years ago. But I learned that there is a significant proportion of newly homeless people who are in work or were in work, who don't have any complex social issues and have just fallen between stools.
Yeah,
they've got a mobile phone, they've got a job, got nowhere to live.
Yeah.
They can't find anywhere to live in it for a number of different reasons. And so the sort of strategy of my approach is, if the low-hanging fruit, if you like, the ones that don't have long-term complex social issues, could be diverted, and in other words, you reduce the supply of new homelessness,
Yeah.
then the charities and governmental organizations that are handling the people who are in crisis will have pressure alleviated. If you reduce the supply of new cases they've got to solve, then the resources they're currently deploying, both the charities and the government, are going to be able to help the people they're helping better. They'll have fewer people to help. They'll be able to do more.
Yeah.
And as a result, probably start to improve their turnaround metrics of people whose lives they turn around as well. So, and then hopefully, to sort of turn the tide a bit, and just by it's sort of, you just slightly change the tipping point, because this is a colossal problem that no one on their own is going to solve, right?
Yeah.
And I think you've got to bring your whatever support or help you're aiming to bring has got to be done in conjunction with the existing vast efforts that are happening. I mean, the top 5 homelessness charities are spending £500 million a year between them, £500 million a year. This is not small change, right?
Wow.
Huge money, and yet they feel like they're pushing water uphill. The government is spending similar amounts, I think actually even more, $750 million in the most recent year, towards trying to huge amounts of money that's going to local government and local governments. And then you talk to the people in local government who are handling housing crises, and they're just in despair, of problems that they can't solve. So, for example, people in the council cannot solve the chronic shortage of affordable housing.
Yeah.
That's not something local councils, it's not within their power.
No.
Simple supply and demand, which is why you've got this massive waiting list of somewhere between 250,000 and 300,000 people in temporary accommodation, waiting for a council home or waiting for a permanent home. So, to your question of how, there's a number of different approaches, but the one we're starting with, where actually just today I think I'm getting the final legal document from the lawyers, which is the rent guarantee scheme offer.
Right.
So, going back to the supply of homelessness, it's quite shocking when you look into it. And this is why I'm interested to talk to you, because of your area of expertise and knowledge. The number one, by far the number one, I'll send you a link to the page, it's the organization that tracks these statistics.
Right.
The number one cause of new homelessness, as defined by a council accepting that you are statutory homeless, right?
Yeah.
Which allows them to then treat you as someone they are legally obliged to house, even if it's temporary. Right? You've got to qualify as statutory homeless. So, ignoring all the ones that they turn down, because those people are actually still homeless as well, but they're just not going to get council help. Of the ones that councils accept as statutory homeless, the number one cause is the end of a tenancy where they were not in arrears.
Right. Not in arrears.
Not in arrears.
There you go.
This is no fault evictions. Landlord needs to sell the property, or landlord needs to move back into the property, and you can see both sides here.
Yeah, of course.
These people are evicted from the property, but simply cannot find another property where they're accepted. Maybe they're not passing references, or they can't find someone in their budget. There's just this shortage. The agents I work with say that every time a well-priced rental property comes on the market, they have something like 100 to 200 applications per single property. It's staggering.
Wow.
Okay, so that's how many people are desperate for these low, just one-bedroom flats or whatever it might be, the lower value stuff. Yeah. So when you're evicted from the tenancy where you've been, you're paid up, you've never been in arrears in your rent, and you find yourself with 68 or 60 days or whatever it is, 2 months notice to find somewhere new. Well, you are one of 200 people looking for every single new property that's coming in the market. So it's unsurprising that you may not find somewhere, and you're facing your eviction date.
Yeah.
It's not the council's fault. And again, this is where we come back to the landlord culture being one of, are they going to say, well, it's not my problem, sorry, I'm entitled as a landlord to evict this tenant. And one of the things I want to do is talk to the National Residential Landlords Association about simply avoiding another Wonga situation where don't wait till the law has to change. Be a human being. Recognize the fact that even though your reasons are entirely legitimate, you might be forcing someone into homelessness through no fault of theirs. Are you okay with that? Because I think a lot of them are a bit like, la, 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 la.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And it's
so,
that awareness thing again. Yeah. Be aware of the power as a consumer, be aware of your power as a landlord, so on and so forth. Yeah. Awareness.
And we all know that there are good and bad landlords and everything in between. Right? There's a spectrum of landlords.
Of
but
course.
I think that if people started to make, and of course, I know that a lot of landlords are on very narrow margins. They've borrowed money.
That's right.
There are changes in tax law.
Yeah.
Their yield is just not up to it. They've got to sell. Maybe they're even being forced to sell. I think that's going to happen. Definitely.
Of course. Right? That's right.
But compare that situation where you're fortunate enough to have been in a position to invest in, not just your own home, but a second property or a third property.
Mm-hmm.
And then imagine sitting down with a person who's homeless on the street and saying, I couldn't afford the mortgage payments on my second property. Oh, on your second property, you couldn't afford the mortgage payments. Oh, then now I sleep better on the park bench at night, knowing that it's because you couldn't, And I just think if you could bring that humanity into it, landlords, they just might soften a little bit and go, let's see if there's a way in which, as a fellow human being, I can work with you so that I can get what I need to, which is I've got to get out of this property at some point. Yeah. But I'll work with you and I'll help you and maybe whatever it might be, It's so that there's that part of it. Now the rent guarantee that we've come up with is specifically for people on universal credit. Now, what I've discovered, I'm a member of a Facebook group. It's a closed Facebook group where it's people who need housing advice, people who are in distress from housing, right? And there's a lot of these people in this situation saying, I'm on universal credit. I've been renting where I am for 2 years. I've never been in arrears because my government's effectively paying the rent. I've got to, the landlord's a nice guy, but he's been forced to sell. I understand why I've got to get out, but I'm not being accepted anywhere else because I can't get a guarantee.
Right.
Now, I'm taking a marketing strategy for BestAgent where rather than spend £3,000 on advertising, I will risk £3,000 on guaranteeing someone's rent. Now, if it all works out, I'm in the money. I haven't spent £3,000.
Yeah.
Right. And this person on universal credit has just got a guarantee that's allowed the landlord who he's applied to say, yeah, okay, with that guarantee, yeah, I'll take you on. So hopefully it's a win-win-win for everyone. Landlord wins, tenant gets home, otherwise they'll end up with homelessness. And we've won because the quid pro quo from the tenant we're asking for is we're offering you this guarantee if you qualify, and there's a few criteria we're going to ask for. And in return, you've got to allow us to tell your story. We want to showcase.
Right.
We want to be able to we want to get you on camera saying, I was going to end up homeless. BestAgent has actually helped me avoid homelessness, get me into a new home with this guarantee. That's PRable stuff, right?
Of course it is.
And we're not looking to do this exclusively. I want to encourage the whole property industry to do the same and say, guys, look, this works. We've now got 10 or 15 or 20 people into homes they otherwise wouldn't have been into. And look what it's done for our marketing and our branding.
Yeah.
Everyone else, join the party.
Yeah.
The more the merrier. You can even use our rent guarantee paperwork if you want. Because the government's doing mortgage guarantees.
Yep.
And of course, some of those guarantees will get called and there will be a cost, but I don't think it's going to be 100% cost.
Yes, correct.
So, and we're, like, as I said, we've got the paperwork now. We're in contact with both Dorset and Kent County Councils to begin with. Kent County Council's already done a similar scheme for people coming out of youth care, going into their first place. Right. And the county council itself has been providing guarantees to the landlords to get young people into their first flat.
Ah, right, okay.
Dorset County Council is excited for us to bring this gap. We're just hopefully in the coming weeks and we'll be finding our first tenant and getting them into a house and then telling that story. So it's a fascinating time.
Tremendous.
Well, it's because there's a risk, which I accept, that people could accuse us of exploiting the homeless in return for exposure. Now, I will accept that accusation
Mm-hmm.
With 2 points. So yes, we're exploiting homelessness for publicity,
Mm-hmm.
but we're hurting nobody if we fail.
Yeah.
And secondly, we're starting from day one as we need to go on. So even if we can get one person in, that in my mind ticks a box to say we're not exploiting it. We're actually delivering already, even if it's one person at a time.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. There you go. There's the man. There's the mission. There's the man. It's everything I told you at the start. I told you. Make sure you follow this guy, please, because you can tell it's a tremendous story. It's a tremendous mission that he's doing. We wish him, his team, everyone all the best. It's fantastic. Make sure you follow him. Jump into the show notes. Get all the links. Make sure you follow the campaign. But make sure you use BestAgent as well, because that's where they can help you, isn't it, Charlie? The guys and girls that can hook in, use it to find their agent, use it to find their home, because they're getting value. Just all the value you could get from another portal, you're getting that. So your consumer, your kind of consumption is not changing. So tap into it, use your power, and then you're going to help everyone behind that. It's absolutely tremendous. And please, if you've enjoyed today's show as well, stick a wee rating in iTunes. It mentioned Charlie's name in it. You know, I loved listening to the podcast with Charlie and BestAgent. Loved it. Get them in there, because get those names out there, because the more we can publicise, as the man has shown you, the more he can help other people. Charlie, for everything you're doing, thanks a million. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And if any of your viewers are people who are thinking moving house as well, I've also got a YouTube channel called Moving Home with Charlie, where it's just free advice for anyone who's about how to find an agent. Yes,
and there's some hilarious moments in that, with daughters in the back of cars and paintings falling off walls and all sorts of stuff. The glamorous side of the property world, which is fantastic. You're a great watch on YouTube. You really are. I'm now following a YouTuber. I'm like my daughters. I'm following a YouTuber. So honestly, really appreciate it, and thanks for your time on the show today.
Thank you, Richard. Really, really enjoyed it, and very much appreciated. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I did. Remember, with the guests that you just saw, go into the show notes for the page, because all of their links are there so that you can get in touch and to get more information. And talking about getting more information, more guests, more insights, more knowledge, etc., make sure you're subscribed. Get the subscription done, get the notifications on, and then we'll always keep in touch with you every single time a brand new show is going to come out. So thanks for tuning to This Week in Property.